Story 1, The Last Customer. I work nights at a 24-hour gas station just off the interstate. It's the kind of place truckers stop for coffee, college kids buy cheap snacks, and junkies loiter in the parking lot. It's boring most nights. Dead quiet after 2 a.m., except for the buzzing fluorescent lights and the hum of the soda machine. I was 17 when I got the job. My mom said it would build character. Mostly it built paranoia. The store has this layout burned into my brain. Counter up front, aisles in the middle, coffee station by the window, and in the back, 2 doors. One for storage, one for the bathroom. And then there's the mirror. A security mirror angled at the corner so you can see anyone walking down the aisle. At night, it reflects more empty space than I'd like. It was a Tuesday. Rain pounded the glass, streaking down the front doors. I was counting minutes until closing, well until my shift ended at 4 a.m. Around 3:15, the door chime went off. I looked up, expecting a soaked trucker. Instead, a man stepped in. Tall, thin, drenched in rain. No umbrella. His clothes looked old. Not vintage, not stylish. Just wrong. Like they'd been hanging in a basement for decades. He didn't say a word. Just walked straight to the back. Evening? I called out, trying to sound casual. No reply. He vanished down the snack aisle, just out of sight. I waited. No footsteps. No sound. The mirror showed nothing. I frowned, stepped out from behind the counter, and walked the aisle. Empty. No man. No footprints on the wet floor. But when I got back to the counter, something made my stomach drop. The coffee pot was full, but one of the cups was missing. The glitches. At 3:30, I started hearing it drip from the back room. I checked. Pipes were fine. The storage was empty. When I returned to the counter, my log sheet had moved. Not blown by air. Not slid. Moved. Sitting perfectly straight, pen laid across it. Like someone had been filling it out. Then I noticed the mirror. In it, I saw him. The tall man. Standing at the end of the aisle. Staring. I spun around. Nothing there. The customer returns. At 3:45, the door chime rang again. I looked up, my heart pounding. It was him. The same man. Same clothes, still dripping wet as if he'd just come in. But he didn't walk forward. He stood in the doorway, watching me. I forced a shaky smile. Can I help you? No answer. Just that awful blank stare. The lights flickered. When they steadied, the doorway was empty. But the floor was wet. Puddles leading to the back. The final 10 minutes. At 3:50, I decided to call my manager. As the phone rang, I caught movement in the mirror again. This time, it wasn't just him. It was me. My reflection was standing beside him in the aisle. Not sitting at the counter. Standing next to him. The line clicked, but the voice that answered wasn't my manager. It was mine. Breathing. Whispering. Don't hang up. I dropped the phone. Closing time. At 4 a.m., the relief shift arrived. He found me outside in the rain, shaking, staring at the locked glass doors. Inside, the lights were on. The aisles were empty. The counter clean. But through the window, in the reflection of that mirror, I swear I saw 2 figures still standing in the aisle, and that's when I realized the last customer never left. What would you do if you saw your reflection standing somewhere you weren't? Be honest, would you have stayed until closing after that? Story 2, The Woman Upstairs. The night she knocked on my door, I realized she had been inside my apartment the whole time that I had just moved into a cheap apartment building downtown. Old brick, flickering hall lights, thin walls where you could hear neighbors argue or play late-night TV. The landlord warned me about only one thing. Don't get too close to the woman upstairs. Apartment 4C. He didn't explain. Just muttered it like he regretted renting to me already. I laughed it off. I was broke, desperate, and happy to have a roof at all. The first week, I barely noticed her. Sometimes I'd hear faint footsteps above me, pacing at odd hours. Sometimes dragging sounds like furniture scraping. Then one morning as I left for work, she was in the hall. Tall, pale. Thin hair pulled back so tight it made her look stretched. She didn't smile. Just stared at me like she was memorizing every detail. When I said hi, she whispered something I couldn't catch. Her breath smelled like wet dirt. Things started wrong. A few days later, I found notes under my door. Not threatening. Just strange. Don't let them in. They knocked 3 times. They were your face. No signature. Just shaky handwriting. I assumed it was her. The wall started giving me more. At night, I'd hear 2 sets of footsteps upstairs. But only one person lived there. And sometimes, this is what really got me. When I walked into my bathroom, I'd hear her humming through the vent. Except, it wasn't directly above. It sounded like she was humming inside the vent itself. The knock. One night around midnight, I was watching TV when there was a knock on my door. 3 knocks. Slow. Heavy. I froze. The landlord had just had the locks changed that week. Nobody should even know I lived there yet. When I looked through the peephole, my stomach turned. It was her. The woman from 4C. But something was wrong. She wasn't standing. Her face was pressed sideways against my door. One eye staring through the peephole. her mouth whispering right against the wood. "Let me in." The wrong details. I backed away, heart racing. The whispering didn't stop. But when I covered the peephole with my hand, the sound moved. Now it was coming from inside my apartment. I ran room to room. Nothing. Until I reached my bedroom. The closet door was open. And there, inside, hung a jacket. My jacket. But when I looked closer, I realized it wasn't mine. Same brand. Same size. Same tears in the sleeve. But dirtier. Stained. Like someone had been wearing it for a long time. The breaking point. The next morning, I went straight to the landlord. I told him everything. The notes, the knocking, the voice. He looked exhausted, like he'd heard it all before. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. "Apartment 4C has been empty for months. No one's lived there since December." I laughed, waiting for the punchline. But he just shook his head and pulled out the key. We went upstairs together. He unlocked 4C, swung the door open. Empty. Dust on the counters. No furniture. No footprints. But in the center of the living room was a pile of paper. All of them were notes. Every single one read the same words in shaky handwriting. "Don't let them in." The final night. That night I packed. I was done. But at 2 a.m., just before I left, the power went out. Pitch black. And then 3 slow knocks on my door. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. But the knocking didn't stay at the door. It traveled. First to the walls. Then the ceiling. Then the floor beneath my bed. And finally to the closet. 3 slow knocks. And when I opened the closet door, the woman from 4C was already inside, wearing my jacket, smiling with my face. "Would you open the door after 3 knocks? What if your neighbor was never really your neighbor? Be honest, would you sleep in that apartment one more night?" Story 3. The man who wouldn't leave. Everywhere I went, work, the train, even my own kitchen, he was already there, smiling. Rewind, the setup. It started like nothing. Just a face in the crowd. I was riding the late train home from work one night, half asleep, scrolling my phone. That's when I noticed him. Middle-aged. Clean suit. Too clean. The kind of face you'd forget immediately, except for the way he stared. Not at his phone. Not at the ads above the seats. At me. Eyes locked. Smile frozen. I told myself he was just another weird commuter. But then I saw him again the next morning. Same train. Same seat. Same smile. And again the next day. And the next. The pattern. At first I brushed it off. Coincidence. But then he started showing up outside the train. At the corner near my office, leaning against a lamppost. At the grocery store, standing in line behind me, empty cart. At the cafe, sitting at the table next to mine, no drink in front of him. Always the same neat suit. Always the same smile. And the strangest part? Nobody else seemed to notice him. I asked a coworker once, "Hey, do you see that guy?" But she looked straight at him and said, "What guy? Home isn't safe." One night I got home late. My apartment felt heavier somehow, like the air had thickened. I was cooking pasta when I felt it, someone watching me. The blinds were closed. The door was locked. But when I turned around, I dropped the spoon. He was standing in the corner of my kitchen. Same suit. Same smile. Not moving. Not blinking. I stumbled back, reaching for my phone. And in that half second, he was gone. Like he had never been there. The spiral. Sleep became impossible. Every time I closed my eyes, I'd hear breathing at the edge of my bed. I stopped going out. Ordered food. Worked from home. But the delivery driver kept making mistakes. The receipt would say John. But I hadn't given my name. And every single receipt had the same note scribbled at the bottom. Nice smile. Trying to fight back. I bought cameras. Set them up in every room. The next morning I checked the footage. Nothing. Until 3:33 a.m. The living room camera flickered. For less than a second. But in that second he was there. Sitting on my couch. Hands folded. Staring at the camera. Frame skipped. He was gone. The missing person. I couldn't take it anymore. I went to the police. Told them everything. They exchanged looks. Then one of the officers pulled out a file. Inside was a picture. The man. Same suit. Same smile. But the paper said he had been missing for 20 years. The officer leaned in and whispered, "If you see him again, don't smile back." The last smile. That night I stayed up with every light on. 2 a.m. Nothing. 3 a.m. Nothing. Then 3:33 a.m. I felt it before I saw it. The air went cold. The lights buzzed. And there he was. Standing in the doorway of my bedroom. Still. Silent. Smiling. I tried to look away. I tried not to meet his eyes. But some part of me, some stupid human reflex, made my lips twitch. And I smiled back. And the next morning when I checked the mirror, it wasn't my reflection smiling anymore. It was his, "Would you smile back or run?" Imagine seeing the same man everywhere you go. What would you do if nobody else could see him? Story 4. The notebook that wrote back. I didn't write those words in the notebook. But when I turned the page, It finished my sentence that I work late nights at a small town library. The kind of place nobody visits after 8 p.m. except students cramming or people looking for somewhere warm. That night, it was just me and the buzzing of the fluorescent lights. I was shelving returns when I found it. A plain black notebook. No title. No name. Just sitting on a table in the back corner. I opened it. The first page said in neat block letters, "Write something." The first words. I thought it was a joke. Some kid's creative writing exercise. So I picked up my pen and wrote, "Hello." I flipped to the next page. 2 words were already there, scrawled in handwriting I didn't recognize. I see. The game begins. I told myself someone left it as a prank. So I played along. I wrote, "Who are you?" Turn the page. "Who are you?" My stomach tightened. I slammed the book shut, shoved it back on the shelf. But when I locked up the library that night, the notebook was sitting on the driver's seat of my car. The escalation. I stopped opening it, but it wouldn't stop opening itself. I'd come home from work and it would be on my kitchen table, a page flipped open, words waiting for me. "Why don't you talk to me? Are you lonely? Let me in." One night I lost it. I grabbed the notebook, ripped out every page and threw it in the dumpster. But when I woke up, it was back on my nightstand, perfectly intact. The turning point. That was when I noticed the rules. The notebook didn't just answer. It predicted. I wrote, "I'm going to work tomorrow." Next page. "No, you won't." And I didn't. I woke up with the flu so bad I couldn't stand. Another night I tested it again. I wrote, "I'll call my mom tonight." Next page. "She won't answer." I dialed anyway. Straight to voicemail. The notebook wasn't talking. It was deciding. The final message. By then I hadn't slept in days. The thing was in control. So I tried one last time to fight it. I wrote, "I won't die tonight." Hands shaking, I turned the page. The ink was fresh. The letters carved deep into the paper. "Yes, you will." And when I dropped the notebook, I realized the words weren't written in ink at all. They were written in blood. Would you dare write in it again? What if every word you wrote came true? Be honest, would you burn the notebook or keep it? You've heard my stories. 4 nights. For different places. For different nightmares. A diner worker watching shadows move in empty booths. A stalker who followed me through alleys until I realized he might still be outside my window. A missing roommate who left behind nothing but a message no one should ever hear. And a mirror that doesn't reflect me anymore. Different settings. Different faces. But the same feeling. Something out there is always watching. Waiting. Choosing. The scariest part? It's not always ghosts. It's not always demons. It's not even the dark. It's the things and people you see every day. The stranger walking too close. The neighbor whose smile lingers too long. The mirror hanging quietly on your wall. Evil doesn't hide in shadows. It hides in plain sight. In diners. In apartments. In bedrooms. In mirrors. And sometimes, it hides inside you. What would you do if the mirror whispered your name? Be honest, would you dare work one more night shift after hearing this?